In the golden era of American motoring, few cars carried as much weight in both prestige and performance as Chrysler's 300 letter series. Born in 1955 from the fiery ambitions of Chrysler engineers and the growing influence of NASCAR, the first of its kind, the C300, was not just another full-size luxury car with chrome and comfort. It was a statement of power, refinement, and technological confidence. A car that could dominate on the track and still glide gracefully along suburban boulevards. The C300 was the machine that set a precedent for every letter car that followed, establishing a lineage that would run through the 1950s and early 1960s, culminating in one of the rarest and most intriguing examples of all, the 1963 Chrysler 300J. At its heart, the 300 series was Chrysler's way of saying that performance didn't need to compromise class. These cars were built for the driver who wanted both muscle and manners, a curious blend that would later inspire the idea of the personal luxury coupe. Between 1955 and 1965, each model in the letter series bore a single alphabetical suffix, and with each new letter came refinements, sometimes subtle, sometimes revolutionary, that kept the spirit alive. But they were never mass-market vehicles. They were handcrafted statements of engineering excellence, produced in small numbers to showcase what Chrysler could achieve when the accountants took a step back and the engineers were allowed to dream. Across 11 years, only 16,981 units of the letter cars were built, a small number by Detroit standards and a key reason why these cars remain rare and desirable today. Some models stood out more than others. The 1958 Chrysler 300D, for instance, represented the last gasp of the firepower Hemi engine, a magnificent V8 that defined an entire era. Only 809 of them left the factory. The following year's 300E, produced in 647 examples, marked a transition to the wedge-head V8, signaling the direction of Chrysler's performance future. Then came the 300H in 1962, with just 570 built, a car that maintained the exclusivity of the line but struggled to capture the limelight in a market that was becoming increasingly crowded with smaller, cheaper muscle. Yet even among these rare birds, the 1963 Chrysler 300J would stand apart. Only 400 examples were built that year, making it the rarest of the entire family. Each one was a near handcrafted masterpiece, and each one carried the weight of Chrysler's identity at a time when American luxury performance was beginning to shift. The story of one particular 300J recently resurfaced through the efforts of a passionate Mopar enthusiast and YouTuber named Jamie Atwood. Through his channel, Dead Dodge Garage, Jamie has become known for reviving and restoring forgotten Chrysler products, cars that once roared with pride, but have since been silenced by time. When a 300J found its way into his shop, it wasn't just another project. It was a living link to a fading legacy. This car, it turned out, had once belonged to Len Dawson, a well-known figure among Chrysler circles who specialized in new old stock, NOS parts. Under Dawson's care, the 300J was preserved with a level of attention most cars could only dream of. Unlike many survivors that had been abused, restored poorly, or simply left to rot, this one remained remarkably intact, wearing decades of history with dignity. Still, the passage of time takes its toll even on the best-preserved machines. After sitting unused for roughly a decade, the 300J needed mechanical attention before it could run again. Jamie, with his blend of mechanical skill and storytelling charm, took on the challenge. In his videos, viewers can watch the car's transformation from a dormant relic into a roaring symbol of 1960s horsepower. The big wedge V8 under the hood, numbers matching, no less, was coaxed back to life with care, patience, and reverence. When it finally fired, the deep, thunderous idol filled the garage like an echo from a different era. The 1963 Chrysler 300J might not hold the same mainstream recognition as its predecessors, but among collectors and historians, it's revered for what it represents. It was the last of the pure performance-oriented letter cars before Chrysler began softening the formula. Its styling was bold and angular, a departure from the elegant curves of the 1950s, signaling a shift toward the sharper, more purposeful lines of the coming decade. The front end carried a sense of restrained aggression, with a wide grille flanked by quad headlights, a sculpted hood, and crisp fender creases that seemed to stretch endlessly down its long, commanding profile. But the beauty of the 300J wasn't skin deep. Beneath that formal exterior was one of the most technically advanced power plants of its time. The 413 cubic inch, 6.8-liter wedge V8 fitted with Chrysler's ingenious cross-ram induction system. This setup, featuring long, tuned intake runners that crossed over the engine bay, wasn't just for show. It was a marvel of fluid dynamics, designed to increase torque at mid-range RPMs and deliver exceptional throttle response. With twin 4-barrel carburetors feeding the beast, output was rated at a stout 390 horsepower, 30 more than the same engine in the standard 300 series. In the early 1960s, that kind of power placed the 300J among the most formidable cars on American roads, rivaling offerings from Cadillac, Pontiac, and even Chevrolet's Corvette in straight-line performance. The letter cars had always been about more than numbers, though. They were about feel, presence, and an intangible quality that set them apart. Step inside the 300J and you immediately understood its dual nature. The interior was luxurious yet purposeful, featuring individual bucket seats separated by a full-length console, a layout that would become a Chrysler hallmark. The dashboard carried a sophisticated array of instruments, reminding the driver that this was a serious machine built for speed and comfort alike. Everything inside felt substantial, from the weight of the door handles to the sweep of the steering wheel. It was a car that made you feel in command of something truly special. What made the 300J even more interesting was its exclusivity. Out of the 400 produced, fewer than 100 are believed to have survived into the modern day. That scarcity has turned it into something of a legend among Mopar collectors. Each surviving car tells its own story, some meticulously restored to concours condition, others like Jamie's, preserved as authentic survivors with the gentle patina of age. The latter category often holds a unique charm because it connects us to the way these cars actually lived. Driven, admired, and occasionally forgotten, only to be rediscovered decades later by someone who understands their significance. Jamie's restoration philosophy, showcased across his videos, reflects a growing movement among enthusiasts who value preservation over perfection. Instead of stripping a car down to bare metal and rebuilding it into a flawless showpiece, he prefers to keep as much of its originality as possible, embracing the imperfections that tell its story. In the case of the 300J, this meant maintaining many of its original factory components, while replacing only what was necessary to ensure safety and reliability. Because it had spent years in the care of a man like Len Dawson, the car already had the advantage of being fitted with the best NOS parts available, a rare privilege that added both authenticity and mechanical integrity. Driving a Chrysler 300J today is an experience that borders on the spiritual for anyone who understands automotive history. There's a sense of occasion the moment you turn the key and the 413 wedge rumbles to life. The cross-ram induction delivers a deep, resonant intake sound unlike anything from a conventional carbureted engine. The throttle response is immediate, the acceleration smooth yet forceful, as if the car's immense size defies physics. The TorqueFlite automatic transmission, while not as crisp as a modern gearbox, delivers its shifts with the kind of lazy confidence that defined luxury performance in the early 1960s. The suspension, tuned for both comfort and control, allows the car to float down highways with grace, yet it remains composed through sweeping turns, a reminder that these machines were engineered with both NASCAR and the open road in mind. The 300J also represents a turning point in Chrysler's philosophy. By 1963, the muscle car era was still on the horizon, but the market was beginning to shift. Younger buyers were looking for smaller, lighter cars with big engines. Machines like the Pontiac GTO would soon dominate headlines. Chrysler's full-size performance coupes, luxurious and expensive, started to feel like relics of a bygone time. The 300J's low production numbers weren't just a result of exclusivity. They reflected a changing landscape. Yet, in hindsight, that rarity has only amplified its value and mystique. For enthusiasts, there's also something irresistibly romantic about the letter cars. They were built during a time when automakers chased excellence for its own sake, when engineering bravado often took precedence over marketing data. Every 300-letter car was a rolling expression of Chrysler's confidence, a belief that power and elegance could coexist. That spirit continues to resonate with collectors who see in these cars a purity that modern vehicles rarely replicate. In the digital age, where restoration videos attract millions of viewers, projects like Jamie's have become more than just mechanical endeavors. They're acts of preservation. Watching a rare 300J come back to life connects audiences to a deeper narrative about heritage, craftsmanship, and the enduring love affair between humans and machines. When that numbers-matching 413 wedge finally fires up in his shop, it's not merely an engine starting, it's history breathing again. And this particular Chrysler 300J isn't alone in its rarity. Jamie's friend Tom, from Rocket Restorations, owns a version that's even more elusive, a 300J equipped with a manual transmission. Only 7 were ever built with that setup, and his may be the only one still in existence today. The idea of piloting such a machine, rowing through the gears of a massive 413 wedge, is enough to make any car enthusiast's pulse race. It's a reminder of how special and experimental Chrysler's engineers were willing to be, even in an era when most luxury cars came exclusively with automatics. To understand why the 300J continues to captivate enthusiasts decades later, you have to look beyond its specifications and rarity. You have to see it as a symbol of transition, a car that straddled two worlds. On one hand, it represented the tail end of the jet age optimism that defined 1950s American automotive design, with its bold lines and mechanical ingenuity. On the other, it foreshadowed the rise of performance coupes that would soon dominate the 1960s. It's both a swan song and a prelude, embodying the spirit of an era when horsepower was a form of national pride and every car told a story about ambition. The 300JS understated reputation among casual enthusiasts might seem undeserved, but in many ways that adds to its appeal. It's a car for those who appreciate subtleties, the precision of its engineering, the balance of its design, the craftsmanship of its interior. While its contemporaries might have shouted for attention with flamboyant styling or dragstrip bragging rights, the Chrysler 300J preferred to whisper its credentials in the language of refinement and authority. It was a car for those who already knew what they wanted, not for those who needed to prove it. Even in the modern collector market, the 300J holds a unique position. It's not just a museum piece, it's a driver's car. Those who own and restore them often emphasize that these Chryslers were built to be driven, to stretch their legs on the open road, to feel the surge of that 413 underfoot, and to bask in the quiet confidence that comes from piloting one of the most sophisticated American performance cars ever built. When you sit behind the wheel and look down that endless hood, you can almost imagine yourself in the early 1960s, gliding down Route 66, the world ahead full of possibility. Perhaps that's why the Chrysler 300J continues to inspire fascination today. It's more than a rare car. It's a snapshot of American ingenuity at its peak. Each surviving example serves as a rolling reminder of what Detroit once stood for. A time when automakers built cars not just to sell, but to symbolize progress, confidence, and ambition. In an era dominated by digital precision and efficiency, the 300J stands as a monument to analog artistry. A machine that was as much about feel as it was about function. For Jamie Atwood, Len Dawson, and countless others who have dedicated themselves to preserving the legacy of cars like this, the Chrysler 300J is more than just a project. It's a connection to history, a tangible link to the craftsmanship and creativity that once defined American automotive excellence. Each nut and bolt, each rumble of the engine, tells a story. And as long as enthusiasts continue to breathe life into these machines, that story will never fade. In the end, the Chrysler 300J is proof that rarity isn't just about numbers, it's about meaning. It's about the people who built it, the drivers who loved it, and the restorers who refused to let it be forgotten. 50 years from now, when the last of these magnificent coupes still graces a show field or rumbles down a highway, it will remind future generations that there was once a time when Chrysler dared to chase perfection, letter by letter, year after year, until it culminated in a car like no other. The 300J might have been produced in small numbers, but its legacy looms large, a fitting tribute to an era when American steel, engineering passion, and the open road combined to create something truly timeless.